Hey everyone, welcome to the Align Your Life show. Thanks so much for being here. I am Jenny Parks, health and prosperity professional, integrative nutrition coach, and wellness advocate. Here with Jennifer Malins today. She is a fellow certified integrative nutrition coach, heart math coach, and author. And we're talking digestion 101 today. So let's just get right to it because digestion is really one of the most important systems in the body. It affects a lot. It affects everything, really. And I think a lot of people don't know that it starts really with your eyes and your taste buds and your mouth. But we're not going to get into all of that today. We're going to keep it kind of simple. There are a lot of things that we do that we're probably not aware of, things that we're eating that we're not aware of that throws it off. And I think probably, too, a lot of people don't associate a lot of the issues that they face with their digestion because it's not just about having an upset stomach or indigestion or things like that. It can affect mood and skin and lots of different things.
Absolutely. And so I can't count the number of times I've heard people say, well, I don't have any issues with digestion when I'm working with them in one-to-one coaching sessions or group sessions. But then they have all these other symptoms that they can't explain, or they just don't know what good digestion is, because it's not like we sit around talking about being bloated and gassy after we eat, and our elimination process is like, we don't sit around and talk about, unless you're me or
I was going to say, like we do.
But most people don't sit around and talk about that. So then when I start asking questions like, okay, how many times a day do you go to the bathroom and eliminate? Like, do you ever get gassy after you eat? Do you feel a little bit nauseous sometimes when you eat or bloated at all after you eat? Those are all symptoms of poor digestion. Or if you look in the toilet and you can tell what you ate, that's a sign that you didn't digest it well. And people don't like to talk about that sort of thing, but guess what? If you work with me, you're going to talk about it because I need to know, because those are all signs. Also, you can have brain fog, poor sleep. If you're waking up in the middle of the night, it could be a digestive issue or a blood sugar issue, and those things go hand in hand. Just difficulty concentrating, poor memory, weird skin issues, so many different things that you don't necessarily associate with digestion can be caused by poor digestion. And Hippocrates said all disease begins in the gut. And I would agree with that, at least for the most part, that 90% probably does start in the gut. And if you have poor digestion, it affects all the other body systems, such as your hormones. Your hormones can be thrown off because you weren't digesting things properly and weren't absorbing things properly. So people say you are what you eat. No, you are what you can absorb. So you can be eating all the right foods, and if you're not absorbing and assimilating those nutrients properly, then that can lead to nutrient deficiency, which can lead to hormone imbalances, which can lead to resistant weight loss, fatigue, and other symptoms. And then it's just a snowball effect affecting all the other body's systems until you end up with, anxiety, depression, and a host of other issues. So
yeah, I know I can relate to a lot of what you said, and even people who are eating well will often not feel great and not understand why that is. And a lot of times it's because they're not absorbing. Like you mentioned, it's going right through, or people are taking vitamins, but they're not feeling a difference because it's going right through. Or medicine, too. Medicine that people need, sometimes it's not being absorbed. It's not doing its job. It's going right through them. I'm glad you brought up elimination, too, because so many people are constipated. And it's amazing how many people think that that's okay. And I always point out to them, like, where do you think all of that stuff's going if it's not coming out? It's staying in there. And it's being reabsorbed. And causing a lot of acidity and just a lot of sickness and disease, compromising the immune system and all of that. And there are simple fixes that you can start with. And you'll notice you start to feel better quickly when you start to do some of those things. So let's start with food. Tricky foods. What are some of the foods that you commonly see or know are throwing people off?
Well, it's probably very similar to what you see when you're doing cleansing with people. So Jenny does cleansing, if you don't already know, and it's very good at it. And one of the things that you have to do going through a cleansing protocol is you have to give up gluten and dairy, at least for 30 days while your body is going through that detoxification process. And so gluten, people talk about gluten all the time, and gluten sensitivity and celiac disease, and then there are people who are just like, I don't believe in that at all, like, what is this thing about gluten? And so here's the deal with gluten. So gluten has about 70 times, or wheat has about 70 times more gluten than it did in our grandparents' day and age.
Why is that?
Hybridization. So, we've done a lot of tricky things to the wheat, and in that process we've increased the gluten content. So what does gluten do to the body? So in your small intestine, you have these villi, and the villi are in charge. They're like finger-like projections, which is why I'm doing this. They're in charge of, you absorb most of your nutrients in your small intestine, which is located below the belly button. And these villi, what happens is they become inflamed if you are sensitive to gluten or you're eating too much gluten. And you have these cell walls in your small intestine that are kind of like a brick wall, and it's called a tight gap junction. So another thing that gluten does is that it increases the production of a protein called zonulin. And zonulin, if you can imagine the cell walls being like a brick wall, zonulin is like ivy on your wall. So everyone knows what ivy does to a brick wall. You don't want it climbing up your brick wall because it pulls it apart. So then what happens is the cell walls they become separated a little bit, and then nutrients that are really too big to be recognized by the body as food are getting through those cell walls when they shouldn't be. So they haven't been properly broken down, and they're escaping through those cell walls. Then your immune system, that's like your soldiers, those immune cells are on guard, and they see them as foreigners. They don't realize that they're food, and so then they go on attack. And then your immune system is on attack and using all the soldiers to fight what it perceives to be a foreign invader. Then real foreign invaders can get in, and then you can end up getting sick.
Hence the domino effect.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of the celiac disease, Crohn's disease, IBS, all that stuff is on the rise, and it's no coincidence that it has all come to a larger scale at the same time that we've compromised our soils and the way that we're processing food.
Absolutely. And I recently read, and I don't know how true this is because I haven't looked into it. It's just one of those quick reads on it. It was a Facebook post, and I just read it really quickly. But I thought it was interesting that the article talked about how farmers are spraying, I don't know if they're using Roundup or what they're using on the wheat, but they're spraying the wheat in order to kill it before they harvest it because it's a lot easier to harvest it that way or something like that. And it's like, okay, so it's not typically GMO, but you're still getting a high percentage of pesticides, I'm afraid, if you're not eating organic wheat. Then with the increased gluten and that, increased production of zonulin, which then causes your cell walls to separate in the intestines, I just worry about consuming very much gluten at all. So
yeah, because it's not necessarily the gluten that's bad. It's just the gluten today. That's, gluten in and of itself in its natural state.
Yeah, so that's just one example of a food that could be just wreaking havoc on your digestive system. And even if it's organic and it says it's whole grain. I mean, that's not even true because it's masticated to make it into a flour. So people think that they're eating a healthier version of wheat, but it still could be really hurting their digestive systems.
Absolutely. So we have to take a quick break, but when we come back, maybe give some examples on where gluten is, what you're looking for in the grocery store, and what you're looking at to know if gluten's in something. Sugars too, because sugar can be hiding if you're not looking for it.
Yep.
We'll be right back.
When Margaret and I decided to sell the old estate here, we had only one choice in signage: Logan Street signs and banners. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore, but rather located on 10th Street on the south side of Noblesville. Well, we sold the old beauty, and we were able to buy this wonderful estate. And we had so much money left over, I was able to buy this beautiful 1968 Eldorado Cadillac for Margaret. Only 472,000 miles. Margaret loves it because it's got those big seats and that heavy-duty suspension to support her svelte frame. Next time you're looking for signs or banners, call old Jim at Logan Street Signs and Banners, 773-7200. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Align Your Life show here with Jennifer Malins. We are talking Digestion 101. We were just talking about some tricky foods that cause digestive issues for most people. Two of the things that Jen mentioned before the break was gluten and sugar. And she gave a really great description of why gluten isn't beneficial and what has happened to it in the process and all of that. So if you missed the first segment, you got to go back and watch it because it was really great. We have soldiers, did you know that, working for us? But so gluten is in pretty much everything, like we were just talking about, except for, maybe vegetables, fruit, and meat, which is really kind of the basis of how our bodies are designed to eat. Not everyone is designed to eat meat, but I think we're all, for the most part, designed to accept some fruit and some vegetables. But other than that, it's really in most foods.
Yeah.
And do you know, so if someone's looking at an ingredient list or something, how do they know if gluten's in it or how much? Because if you can't tolerate gluten, is a little bit really going to throw you off big time?
Yeah, I mean, if you have celiacs, for example, I have a friend with celiac. She hasn't been formally diagnosed, but she is so incredibly sensitive. I feel sure that that's what she has. And she was sharing, it was like a bowl of olive oil and it had some herbs, sharing that with a friend. And so she was dipping vegetables in it, and he just dipped a piece of bread in it and had I think there was one crumb in there, and she didn't even consume the crumb. She tried to stay away from the crumb, but she still had a flare up. And so the way her celiacs, and that looks different for every person, the way her celiacs manifests is she gets huge hives just all over her body, just everywhere. I mean, it looks like she has some kind of horrible disease or something. Well, it is, but it looks like a skin disease, but it's actually celiacs, and that's just from one crumb of gluten. So she can't have it at all. And so you just have to be really, really careful. The gluten is pretty much in anything. So if you want to stay away from gluten, stay away from processed foods. And then you want to get things that are certified gluten-free. It needs to say certified gluten-free on it. Even things like postage stamps, that has gluten. I mean, just weird things that you wouldn't expect. And I think there's just way too much information to go over on the show. But if you just did a keyword search in Google and Googled like celiacs, gluten, foods or something like that, then you could come up with it'd be a really, really, really long list of things that you have to avoid, unfortunately. And when you go to the restaurants, you have to tell people, I mean, let's say that you're gluten sensitive and you don't have celiacs. I would just say, I have celiacs. I cannot have any gluten at all. Salad dressings often have gluten in them. I mean, just really surprising things. Makeup. You just have to really, really do your research, and it is going to be super time consuming. If people want to email me, and I'll give my email at the end of the show, I'd be happy to send them some links to resources where they could do that research.
Yeah, that's awesome, because we can Google anything, and sometimes you don't know if the information you're getting is legit or not. I was going to just mention that if someone wants to just figure out if they even have a sensitivity to gluten, an easy way is obviously just to really eliminate processed foods. Obviously eliminate gluten as much as possible, but you'll notice pretty quickly if you do or not, because you're going to start feeling better pretty soon.
Absolutely. And then if you add it back in, so with the elimination diet, you take the suspect food out for 15 days. You don't have it at all, no cheat days or anything, and then you add it back in, and then you wait 3 days to see what happens, because it can take up to 3 days, maybe even a little longer, for symptoms to arise. So keeping a food journal and a food elimination journal, just every day tracking that, will really, really help you, because sometimes what you ate 1 or 2 or 3 days before can affect what's going on with you right now. And then another food that I wanted to mention, I mentioned dairy earlier. That can be very pro-inflammatory for people. It can also be really, really hard to digest, especially for digesting conventional dairy, which has tons of, they have to feed the animals all kinds of antibiotics and other pharmaceuticals because they're not raised in very healthy conditions. They're eating foods that are not natural for their digestive system, so they get a lot of digestive-related diseases because they're eating foods that, they need to be grass-fed.
What you eat. How does that go? What you eat.
You are what you eat.
You are what you eat, but you're eating what you eats, or something like that. What you eat.
I mean, it's.
I really want to figure that out now. But go ahead.
No,
I'm just going to
worries.
stay in my head about that. You keep going.
It does, it stays in your system. So what you eat, or what the animal eats, you're in turn ingesting and absorbing as well. So those chemicals don't just go away.
We mentioned dairy, not sugar earlier, didn't we?
And we mentioned dairy, and sugar is another one, especially high fructose corn syrup. That's one. You should never, ever, ever eat high fructose corn syrup. It's an irritant, basically. I mean, I could go into this long litany of exactly what it does, but I won't. Don't worry. But it does. simplified, it's an irritant. So it's an irritant to the gut, and it really it really hurts that mucosal lining that you have in your gut to protect your digestive system. It's processed directly by the liver, and that you can end up getting fatty liver disease, like non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, from eating too much sugar, particularly high fructose corn syrup. I really think it should be outlawed. I don't know why it isn't.
Right.
It's just a really, really, really cheap sugar that was created due to the corn surplus. Just don't eat it. And that is also in everything. It's in ketchups, it's in salad dressings, it's in really surprising places. So just don't ever eat that, because that will really irritate your gut. And just white sugar in general will irritate your gut. And not only that, because of the way it's processed by the body, it can actually make you feel more hungry. So if you tend to eat a lot of white sugar, you won't feel satisfied, and you'll just want to eat more and more and more, versus a more natural, a healthier sugar, such as maple syrup, pure maple syrup, or honey, or something like that.
So for people who are watching right now and are probably like, what the heck am I supposed to eat? It's really not as complicated as it sounds.
Real food.
Once you get going, right? Yeah. So reach out, and either one of us is always happy to help with that. It's very simple once you get going. It's, there's a learning curve there, but it is, like you said, it's as simple as just real food, the way that our bodies were designed to receive fuel.
Right.
Let's move on to stress.
Yes.
Stress is a big factor with digestion.
Yes,
It can slow your digestion down and throw it off in many ways. And I know you see that in your coaching a lot, I'm sure. And people are walking around just stressed out to the max.
They are.
Not taking care, or not even realizing that they are stressed out, and definitely not taking care to undo that.
Right. In fact, I know quite a lot about stress and impacting that digestive system from personal experience.
Yeah.
So when I was in England, I lived there for a couple of years, and I was in graduate school, and that's when my digestive issues really started. I didn't have any problems when I was younger. And after I finished grad school, I just wasn't in a very good space, and it was cloudy all the time, and I was stressed because I was then trying to find a job in Europe, which is really hard because nobody wants to give you a visa if you're American. They want to give it to a British national. And so it was just really tough. It was a tough time. And I remember for an entire year after grad school, I could only eat cornflakes and yogurt, Greek yogurt. That's all I ate.
Oh my gosh.
Because I couldn't digest anything. I would get sick the minute I started to eat, unless I was
there's
with other
gluten in the
people.
cornflakes.
Well, and I don't think that was the issue at that time.
No.
No, I really think it was stress.
Yeah.
And my body wasn't producing enough hydrochloric acid, and therefore nothing was happening. I would eat, and I couldn't process anything but simple sugars, which are not great for you. So, yeah. And I know we need to take a break, but I can definitely go into more about how stress impacts the digestive system.
Yeah, when we come back, we'll talk about that, and then some things that you can do to improve digestion and also to help with stress, which is another thing that affects
huge.
a lot of different things in our life. So we'll be right back.
When Margaret and I decided to sell the old estate here, we had only one choice in signage: Logan Street signs and banners. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore, but rather located on 10th Street on the south side of Noblesville. Well, we sold the old beauty, and we were able to buy this wonderful estate. And we had so much money left over, I was able to buy this beautiful 1968 Eldorado Cadillac for Margaret. Only 472,000 miles. Margaret loves it because it's got those big seats and that heavy-duty suspension to support her svelte frame. Next time you're looking for signs or banners, call old Jim at Logan Street Signs and Banners, 773-7200. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore.
everyone. Welcome back to the Align Your Life show, talking Digestion 101 with Jennifer Malins. Before the break, we had gotten into stress and how that affects digestion. You were sharing a little bit about your personal experience with that.
Yeah, so as I was saying before, due to stress, I had really low hydrochloric acid, and so that's the acid generated by the stomach when it's time to eat, and it's really, really important that you have that. So carbs start to begin to be broken down in the mouth, and then proteins you don't start breaking down proteins until the food hits the stomach, and then it also continues to break down carbs. And so I was having a really hard time with proteins. I didn't know that at the time. That's really when I started learning about health, nutrition, wellness. I was trying to fix whatever was going on because it was horrible. I mean, feeling nauseous every single day for a year, anytime you tried to eat, I felt like I was being tortured. So I really wanted to know what was going on. And what I figured out is that I did have low hydrochloric acid due to chronic stress. I was really stressed all the time. I didn't handle stress well, but I also put myself in situations that created a lot of stress. So sometimes some of it was just poor decision making on my part. And then I know there are other people probably watching this who have had stressful situations happen to them that aren't their fault, that they didn't choose. And so either way, it still impacts the body in a negative way. And if you're not producing that HCl or hydrochloric acid, your body's not going to be able to break down the food properly. It's not going to get absorbed properly. You're going to be malnourished, even if you're eating a lot. And so stress is huge. What happens when you're stressed is that your sympathetic nervous system goes into full function there. So that's the flight or fight. And so when your sympathetic nervous system is active versus the parasympathetic, which slows everything down, your sympathetic nervous system is flight or fight. It perceives a danger, whether it's physical, mental, whatever. It doesn't know and it doesn't care. It perceives that stress, regardless of where it's coming from, and says, okay, we've got to either stay here and fight it out, or we need to run, and either way we can't be digesting food.
And what's interesting is even if you're watching something on TV, maybe there's a terrible news story, your body has that response as you're watching.
Don't eat while you watch TV. Bad idea. And in fact, I'm glad you brought that up because it was then that I realized how important it was to breathe. So that's one of the things I did, even though I didn't know a lot about nutrition at that point. I realized when I just would engage in really deep, slow breathing in between bites and just ate in a relaxed environment, preferably with other people that helped me relax, just being in community with other people and sharing something with other people, that worked miracles on my digestive system.
One of the best practices.
And it's easy.
Is taking time to actually just really enjoy the meal and the sacred time, if you're sharing that time with other people or with yourself.
Right.
Because really food is nourishment, and we should really be honoring it in that way instead of honoring it in the way that we do, which is just something that we want more and more of.
Just always on the go. And I know sometimes it's not always possible with our lifestyle to have a really long meal where you're talking with other people, but do that as much as you possibly can. Another thing that's really helpful, if you can eat your biggest meal at lunch, that's when your digestive fire is the strongest, and it will sustain you for a lot, the rest of the day. So you're not as likely to reach for some sugary snack or coffee at 3 o'clock. That's kind of the witching hour.
Crash that a lot of people have.
If you're eating whole foods and just eating your biggest meal at the begin or in the middle of the day, and then taking some time to relax afterwards. So really taking that full lunch hour, even if that means that you are working later because of it, you're going to have a lot more energy. I know everyone wants to just leave at 5 and get home, but if you just take that full lunch hour and end up even working later, you're going to be so much more productive and feel so much better. You won't want as much food at dinner. Another thing I realized when I was in England having these digestive issues, I noticed if I were to lay on my left side, that my food would digest more easily.
It's one of the things I remember learning at IIN.
I didn't know where my stomach was, and most people don't. Your stomach is right here underneath your left rib cage. It's not here or up here. It's on the left side. So because of the way the stomach is positioned, if you lie on your left side, that enables the food to go down into the stomach more easily for digestion. And so just eating in a calm environment and not eating quickly and breathing through your belly, not the upper registers of the chest, because up here we have stress receptors. So when we take those deep, sharp, or those really sharp inhales, or we're breathing really shallowly, we're activating those stress receptors in the upper lobes of the lungs versus breathing deep into the lower lobes of the lungs and getting that blood flowing and just stimulating the vagus nerve. And there's just so many good things that just simple, deep, slow breathing can do for us, and just eating in a better environment.
Yeah, it's amazing. So if we've scared you, don't be scared, because there really are a lot of simple and easy fixes.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of really becoming aware, number one, and really caring enough about how you feel to really just look into some of this. And that's why
Right.
coaches are around everywhere, because really, especially in today's world around nutrition, it's so confusing. Coaches are really beneficial if you just don't know which way to turn.
Right.
We're running short, but that was a short version of Digestion 101,
Yeah.
and we'll do this again
Yeah.
for sure, because I think this is something that so many people are affected by and don't really realize it, and we've lowered the bar on how good we're supposed to feel.
Right.
Once you start feeling better, that's really all the motivation that is necessary for
Absolutely.
you to stick with something, when you realize how great the body was designed to feel.
Absolutely.
Do you have any events coming up, or how can people get in touch with you?
Well, I'm working on putting together another group heart math coaching session or sessions. So it's a series. It's usually about 4 weeks, so 1.5 hours at a time for a group. And heart math is one of the few proven scientific methods of reducing stress. So I find that when I use heart math on a really regular basis, I can just respond to stress in healthier ways. My digestion improves, my sleep improves. So really, I
Helps
think
you to
that
increase
working
that
on
awareness too, not to interrupt, but it helps you
Absolutely.
increase the awareness of knowing when you're starting to become stressed. Because
Right, 'cause
sometimes
people
we don't even know. Yeah.
They go all day with all these chronic little stressors, not even realizing they're stressed, and then wondering why they're tired at the end of the day. You've got to
Right.
mitigate those little stressors as they come up, because stress is kind of like time or money. It accumulates bit by bit, and all of a sudden you've accumulated all this stress without doing anything to mitigate the stress. So if you're interested in learning about heart math or a group session, you can email me at jennifer@bellybrain.org. You can also call me at area code 408-250-1027. I am local. I just kept my California cell phone number.
I don't blame you for
Yeah.
hanging on to Callie.
So that's the best way to get in touch with me.
Awesome. And we'll do Digestion 102 maybe next time,
Sure,
or in
yeah.
the coming shows that Jen is here for. My name again, Jenny Parks. Find me on Facebook. I always love to connect there, or feel free to email me, jennyparks@alignyourlifewellness.com. I want to thank Jim Wofford, Logan Street Signs and Banners, for allowing us to be here every week. And we'll be back next week, Tuesday at 2 p.m. Thanks so much for being here, everyone. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.
Foods, we can totally go.
So
like
we can
there's a
do
lot
another
that we
one.
can.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does go so quickly. You wouldn't think a half an hour
I know.
would go that fast, but wow.
Yeah. But I love that notebook.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, I know we talked about doing maybe eating disorders or something next time, but if you want to stick with this and do a Digestion 102, and then
Yeah.
push that one, just gives
I
us a
forgot
little
to get
lineup
those
too.
photos. of
So,
my
maybe
parents.
time.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you very
I
much.
like it. You're welcome.
So it's back to 2:00 next time, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, it's uploading now to you.
All right.
Where is? So it was.
bring a flash drive.
Oh,
I was forgetting something.
it was being shared on Google Drive with me, but I didn't see the. Where do I go to find it?
You didn't get it?
No.
The links? Okay. I will reshare it again. It said it shared it with you on Tuesday.
Okay.
They are there on Google Drive, and I can see them.
Can I get? Oh, I can probably just go. Google confuses the hell out of me. I am.
me too.
God.
I mean, I just get. I feel like it takes
I get
me
annoyed.
an hour to like download each video because I always forget how you do it.
Yeah.
And I think I do it differently every time.
Me too.
If you have a YouTube
Channel.
downloader or YouTube downloader on your computer,
Okay.
all our videos now we are using YouTube exclusive.
Okay.
So they're all there. So
Okay.
you just go to our YouTube channel, HCTV, YouTube.com. My domain is too hard to find it on YouTube.
Right.
And all the videos there, you just click it. If you have, there are some free downloaders programs.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have one that's already pre-built in the computer, you just download from there.
Right.
What
Okay.
we do, we stream it live now to YouTube. Beforehand, we were recording and uploading it. Now we stream
Okay.
it live. The ability to stream live to YouTube, we got the approval last October to stream live to YouTube. But it becomes, it's high definition, and it also is caption and coded.
High definition.
They've already Zoom in.
Yeah,